When we talk about the cerebrum, the most important thing that we talk about is the outer cortex of the cerebrum. Now, all of these are color-coded by their functions. So when we talk about cerebral cortex areas, your frontal lobe is going to be a red color because all of your motor control from your brain is going to be controlled by your frontal lobe. Now, your parietal lobe, which is divided from your frontal lobe through the central sulcus, is going to be responsible for a lot of what we call somatosensory, which is body senses like touch, pain, tickle, pressure, vibration. Your occipital lobe is a different color because your cerebral cortex, which is part of here and here, is going to control your vision. Now, your temporal lobe, which is here, is going to have a lot of different things, but your temporal lobe is really going to be helping you with hearing. Now, if I could take this off, the insula, which is deep to the temporal lobe, is involved with taste, which we call gustatory. So when we talk about the cerebral cortex areas and their functions, the frontal lobe is motor, the parietal lobe is somatosensory, the occipital lobe is vision, the temporal lobe is going to be for hearing, which is auditory, and the insula is for taste, which is gustatory. Now, as we look at the frontal lobe, this is called your prefrontal cortex. This is your personality. Helps what you assign basically values to certain principles. So your ethics, your morals, this is your prefrontal lobe. Now, we do have what we call our frontal eye field area, which is up here. Your frontal eye field area is going to be the area of your brain that moves your eyes. This right here is called Broca's area. Broca sounds like the Spanish word boca, which means basically to speak or mouth. So this is called Broca's. It controls your mouth. And then this is your primary motor association. Now, your primary motor association is basically going to help you initiate movement. Now, if I asked you how to swing a bat, that would be your primary association area, motor association area. So this is your primary motor cortex. Sorry if I said that wrong. Primary motor cortex helps you initiate movements. Your primary motor association helps you have muscle memory. So I want you to mimic flipping a coin, how you would flip a quarter. That right here, this association area, is going to store memory. So you would literally say you flip a coin by doing that. Now I could ask you to flip me the bird. That's again an association, it's memory. Now, your central sulcus is a very important line because this is your primary motor cortex and this is your primary somatosensory cortex. So this one is responsible for understanding what body senses are. Now, I could ask you what a hot stove feels like. I can ask you to describe what a feather feels like on your nose. This is called your primary somatosensory association cortex, which is associated with memory. So you can describe sensations that you know. Now, your occipital lobe is involved with vision. Your primary visual cortex helps you recognize and see people. You just notice them. So the first day of class, when you saw me walk in, you didn't know who I was. But this right here is called your primary visual association cortex. So I could ask you what color this is, or I can ask you, what does that mean? You use your visual association, so things that you can recognize. I could ask you, what is this structure? That is association. So visual association is by memory. Anytime you have an association area, it's memory. So your primary motor association is for movements that you know how to do. Your primary somatosensory association is knowing what certain things feel like a feather. And your primary visual association is when you see someone or a letter or an object that you recognize it. Same thing occurs with your temporal lobe. You have your primary auditory cortex, which helps you hear sound. But if I played a song from Post Malone or Lana Del Rey, if you recognize it, then your primary auditory association cortex would trigger you to know what we're talking about. Now, this little section right here is called Wernicke's. Wernicke's is going to be in the temporal lobe, this is Wernicke's. Wernicke's is going to be a little bit in the parietal lobe, a little bit in the temporal lobe, and it should actually extend a little bit into occipital lobe. This is going to help you with understanding and speaking languages. So Wernicke's is involved with language. And then, like I said before, deep to the temporal lobe is your insula, where your primary gustatory cortex is, which is with taste.